Hello guys, welcome in. If you are just joining me, you will know that I am actually really struggling here in the Queensland summer heat. Sorry, I'm not as clothed as I want to be. I've had to wrap my computer in my button up. Alright, so let's see. I hope that we have a decent enough view here. This isn't ideal, but it is what it is. Okay, so I am reading double blind again. This is our ticket here for which sign that I am reading for. I realize that I am a bit far away from the camera, and so I'm not sure. I might be up and down in these readings. This is I have been indoors for like far too long. I'm a very outdoorsy person. In fact, I live half the year outdoors, and I've been inside for 5 weeks straight. I do want to stand up, sit up, something. All right. So I just needed to get outside. I couldn't do these readings inside. I just couldn't be inside today. I've been inside. Okay, so double blind reading, what does that mean? It means that the sign that I'm reading for, I have these little cards, and I've got all of the signs written on them. We are doing a Gemini full moon reading, and I will reveal at the end what sign I'm reading for, which means I don't know what sign I've selected the cards for, and I don't know what sign I'm reading for. So let's dive straight into your reading. I will sporadically be just checking the screen to make sure that the computer hasn't... Are we still recording? Yes, we are. Okay, make sure that the computer hasn't... I've had to dress the computer up in my... It's wearing my clothes so that it keeps it cool enough to record, because I've just been conking out. Okay, so let's start with we have got the prayer, and this is from the archetype. The archetype. Okay, so the prayer, the comic, and the destroyer. Okay, interesting set of cards. Let's start with the comic here in the middle. So the comic is a really interesting card, and it talks about understanding life as a tragedy, right? But still being able to make fun of it. So you know how comedians are able to make fun of very serious issues? The comic card is kind of about that. It's like when we fully integrate something into our consciousness, and we have a very integrated but detached set view of what that is for us, and largely for other people as well, right? Because the comic isn't generally just cracking jokes to themselves, they're cracking jokes for other people. So they're able to make light of something or joke about something that is very serious, in order to be able to call attention to it, transmute energy, and change perspectives. So what I get here with the prayer and the destroyer kind of being the parentheses around this this comic is that for the collective that I'm reading for, this Gemini full moon is really about understanding this sort of using comedy as a metaphysical tool for transformation, right? We've got the destroyer and the prayer. The prayer, we're usually praying for something that we want to happen. I mean, some people pray for things they don't want to happen, like, you know, but we don't normally phrase our prayers in the negative. We frame them in a positive way, and then we flow from this idea of what we want through the tragedy of collective consciousness and what it means to be human, so that we're able to transmute and get rid of the unwanted energies to elevate our collective consciousness. Sorry, I thought it was set up, but I didn't realize I hadn't gotten out the shadow. This is the Secret Language of Shadows deck. And so let's pull a card for this collective. I don't know if you're able to see these other cards that I've got laid out here. I've got the King of Wands, the Two of Pentacles, and the Ace of Pentacles. So this tells me that, oh, and by the way, all of these cards came up, like when I was pulling cards for this sign, those cards flipped up in the upright. So what that tells me is that whatever this energy is, it is very much visible, not only to yourself, but to other people. In fact, it may be more visible to other people than it actually is to you. And what the message is here is that the King of Wands is very focused on transforming something in their life and making a choice for a new beginning. Look, in the shadow side, this can say that they're juggling new beginnings, or they're focused on juggling new beginnings. But we'll see what the other cards here are for. Okay, intimacy shadow. All right, potentially there is, the card says beyond fear to connection, moving beyond fear to a state of connection. So yes, for some people in this collective, this is about making a choice towards moving towards something that you want. For other people, it is about, you know, juggling new beginnings doesn't just have to mean juggling two people or having more than one romantic connection or partnership situation, right? This can be about creating new opportunities for yourself, right? The option to choose a new beginning. So I would say that largely this reading is talking about, for this collective, that this Gemini full moon is going to be bringing up for you the ability to focus on creating new opportunities for yourself. And it comes through healing these shadow aspects of intimacy. So let's take a look and see if we can dig a bit further into what that is. We've got the 10 of Cups here, which is, you know, largely the happiest sign. And we have the moon here, which often means that something that's hidden or subconscious. So for whatever collective that I'm reading for, you are being asked this full moon to consider what it is for you that you need to move beyond in order to be able to focus in on what it is that you want. Because right now, the situation may be hidden or just buried deep within your subconscious, but we're supposed to take this path here in the moon card, and it means essentially going through, it's not really the dark night of the soul journey, but it is it's walking through our shadow scape here. And this intimacy card can really be about integrating the masculine and feminine aspects of ourselves and asking ourselves what element we need to balance out. So balancing our masculine and feminine aspects here. We'll see if I can get how can this collective go about, I mean, the answer is quite obvious here. Because at first I was going to say let's draw some more cards, but I don't actually think that we need more cards. When something is hidden, it needs to come to light. And if we don't know what is hidden, we need to work in our own subconscious to dig up what it is that is challenging us from bringing what is hidden to the light. It's interesting how I've set these cards up, and I didn't really intend, but we've got the prayer, almost the King of Wands here, sitting under the prayer. So our focus is on praying for something. The transformation that we're looking to have, there is something that is desired, because we wouldn't be able to formulate a prayer without a desire. And so looking at our desires and whether or not they're leading us to this 10 of Cups situation is a requirement for, oh my goodness, it's a baby praying mantis. Whoa. I don't know if I can, yep, he's on this card. Can you guys see that? It is the tiniest little praying mantis I have ever seen. Oh, such interesting energy. I have seen the insectoids just once in my life, and they were eating the brains of people on the dance floor. So my experience with them is not really, maybe they have the rights to do that. Maybe people shouldn't be getting so effed up at music festivals. But yeah, it was really a dark sort of situation for me because, I was there to have a good time. I was there with my friends. I was really in a bubbly mood and, really in a bubbly, outgoing mood. And I moved from like the back dancing outdoor area into like the more cavey type dance area. And yeah, there were just literally like two like praying mantis type figures, sort of like you would see a ghost, right? Sitting there like looshing off of the crown chakra of these two people on the dance floor. And I went to my friends and I was like, I'm like, there's like praying praying mantis entities here, like we need to go do some energetic clearing for our soul tribe and like shake people out of this so that, you know, they're not getting loosed on and fed on. So that praying mantis card was here on top of this destroyer card. And so there is some aspect here of these intimacy issues, which is allowing you, well, I shouldn't say allowing, it's a blockage, right? So it's creating a situation where you are being blocked off from your crown chakra. And so this really needs to be dug up for you. And the way to go about digging that up is to bring into balance with the Two of Pentacles here, to be able to see things from a like highly intellectual, sort of withdrawn perspective, but also to see it from a more emotional perspective and move through those emotions in a way that is transforming your understanding of your life path and your life's journey. All right, let's see. I'll draw one more. We'll use the more Beyond Lemuria cards as well. I said I wanted to make these readings a little bit shorter, and that's because I have been having difficulties with my camera. Well, my computer in general is just overheating right now. And can we get a final closing message for this sign on how they can work with these energies on the Gemini full moon? So we've got this full spectrum card here, which is an interesting card. You know, like the full spectrum is also seen here on this comedic card, where all the colors are sort of represented, and we see the beauty and the tragedy in all, like, as we balance through all of our chakras in healing this situation. So this is the full spectrum card, and it says, step out of the black and white mentality of good and bad, honor the full spectrum of life, and see through fresh eyes. When we judge something, we create a story around it, and often those stories are limiting. Over a lifetime, we subconsciously gather so many of these stories. Create a space of no story for miraculous healing and crystallizing new paths. So this is your reading, Cancer. Thank you for joining me for the full moon read, and I will be putting up more readings over the holidays. I am moving into my holiday house within the next 8 days, and so I'm really going to be enjoying my time. Some really good personal, quiet, alone time. And I should be able to pump out a whole bunch more readings for the collective then. So thank you, Cancer. All right, moving on to our next reading and our next collective. We have, so none of your cards turned up in the, I don't want to say in the upright, but none of them flipped over. So there's largely not a lot that is dealing more with an internal situation for you. And so we have the Pilgrim. So that doesn't really surprise me that, you know, I've just said that, because the Pilgrim is somebody, well, it's interesting, because I was about to say the Pilgrim is somebody that goes inside, internal. And I was getting very much like, the Hermit card coming through here. So the Hermit is somebody who goes up to makes a pilgrimage to the top of the mountain by themselves to connect with their self and their higher, their soul and their higher self. We've got the Riddle, and the Riddle is an interesting card for me because it was probably about 12 years ago that I was just probably smoking joints with friends, but I said something and then I realized like what a profound truth it was, and I said paradoxes are the only truths. And that seems correct when you move from a 3-dimensional perspective or a 4-dimensional perspective into a 5-dimensional perspective. The only truths that seem to cross over are those double-edged swords, those paradoxical types of truths. And the next card that we have is the Seed. So it seems to me that this sign is actually working on this Gemini full moon to come up with their own sort of opportunity to share with the collective. I started this YouTube channel about 6 months after, one of the most difficult twin flame separations. I just realized at that point in time that I was even part of a twin flame, and I have said that I would talk to you guys a bit more about what that means and what it means for me, because I know that we all don't understand it in the same way, and I do have some understanding that I'd like to share for the collective on that journey and how I think that manifests. So what I think is happening here for this collective is that they are coming up with a way to put themselves out there in the world. They're seeding a new opportunity, a new way of understanding reality for themselves. And that's largely done by reconciling and coming to terms with this riddle. So, the pilgrimage can be, I've done a couple of pilgrimages in my life to different temples and walked some old trails that different swamis have walked. I hope you're still able to see me here. And so, at that time I was integrating, and that's what I really feel that this collective is doing. So the other cards that we have are, and I hope, I'm gonna have to, the Fool, the Nine of Wands, and the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Wands. Yeah, this is very much about that new beginning. With the Fool card, what it says is that this collective is coming into a new understanding about how they draw those messages in from spirit, given that not understanding this riddle has caused a lot of burdens in the past, right? The Nine of Wands card is the Wounded Warrior card. And it's really the Gemini full moon for this collective is largely about taking the next month as an opportunity to go into yourself. It may actually be going to a physical place, like visiting temples, visiting church, or it could just be pilgrims out into nature, right? It could just be a pilgrim in your mind. It could be an ayahuasca ceremony. It's going to be different for different people in this collective. But what it's saying is that this is an opportunity for you to gain that higher perspective so that you can see this new beginning. What I see in the Queen of Wands here is a transformation of how you see and understand yourself, yet are still able to reflect your soul consciousness, having experienced these other things in life. Okay, we've got the Three of Wands, the Six of Wands, and the Magician. I'm gonna get up and show you these cards. I had to lay down because I was getting like so sweaty on my back. Alright, let's take a look here. These are the cards. Alright, so like you can see, this is the Three of Wands here, and this is kind of atypical for a Three of Wands card, right? She's very much like performing some sort of sacred ceremony, burning something into the fire here to transmute the energy. The Three of Wands is a card of looking out to the future, so it does match up very well here with, you know, the Fool and the Pilgrim card. And it's saying that through this new beginning, there is going to be a transformation, and that path is, that truth of this new path is no different than the truth of who you were before this riddle Nine of Wands situation. There's no difference in that person. It's a different reflection through the prism of that energy. With the Six of Wands, it talks about moving on, moving into calmer shores. What's interesting in this card is that, I mean, you could really look at it two ways. Like, you could see that this person might look destitute, but that's not what I saw when I looked at this card. What I saw is what looks like these sort of three fishing lines here out in the water across the sunset backdrop, which sort of tells me, it says that you're, you know, coming into a more balanced and relaxed phase about this spiritual transformation that you're going through. And then, of course, we have the Magician at the end, and that's the ability to create this new beginning, to use the power of the elements in the 3D to seed yourself this new beginning, completely connected by the sun. We'll get a... Where did I... Oh, sorry, they're up here. We'll get a oracle card for you from Beyond Lemuria. This is like a beautiful, very relaxed, and we've got the Internal Explorer. So I do think that this pilgrimage for you is largely going to be an internal bit of work. We've had this card in the last new moon readings. It says when we stop looking outside of ourselves and surrender to a soft inner focus, we have access to unlimited information and resources. When we stop thinking with the glass ceiling of our intellect, we have access to multi-dimensional wisdom from the collective consciousness. All right, so who am I reading for here? Gemini. All right, amazing Gemini. I hope you enjoy the full moon. It is in your sign, so it is a good opportunity for you to see those new beginnings, as it is a start of a new moon phase cycle for you. So all the best luck to our Geminis. Okay, let's get set up, and this will be the last run here before I have to chase the shade again. So if you're just tuning in with us, I am doing double blind readings again for this full moon. And I'm just picking and choosing cards the way that seem natural for me. The cards that we have here are the King. So the King is largely about essentially taking the power back into your hands. But what's interesting here in his hands is a wax seal. And a wax seal was used in the past by a king to seal up his letters so that nobody could really open them without breaking the seal and knowing that the message had been tampered with. So what I'm really getting here for this collective is that what's really going to be important for you on this Gemini full moon and moving forward is to edit and audit what is going into your vortex. So if we're using the law of manifestation, the law of attraction, we need to understand what it is that we are attracting. And we can very often put other people's things into our vortex, right? Like my dad wants me to become a doctor, so therefore there's a desire to please him. So becoming a doctor goes into our vortex, even though it doesn't align with our own highest good. We have the Mystic here and the Lover. There is something coming through about sacred sexuality, but then I'm getting a lot of downloads as well, like ISIS type downloads about using sex magic as a way of transforming our conscious reality. And there's a way that can be done in a really, really dark way. And, they call it rooting, having a root, right? That's a British way of saying having sexual intercourse. And that's because you can use root magic in a sexual way. And that would be what I would call like dark magic. So coming out here with the Lover, I think that there's an opportunity for this collective to understand what sacred sexuality is. I think there's some other messages that are going to come up here. So, okay, so we've got the Moon here, and the Moon is in reverse. The Moon is a card of things that are hidden. It's a card of shadow aspects. And in reverse, it can have two meanings. It can mean unmasking the subconscious. It can mean things that were previously hidden coming to light. But it can also mean like very much the darker aspects of the moon. So the more destructive elements, what are they? The 7 deadly sins, like how our negative emotions can affect us. With that card coming up here under the King, where I said that, this wax seal was really about auditing what goes in our vortex. There's an opportunity here for some level of emotional transformation by taking a look at what unconscious things are being reflected back in our reality from our negative emotional states. We have the Wheel of Fortune and the Page of Cups card. So we're talking about a change in destiny, that is initiated through a change in emotional feelings towards things. So let's pull a shadow card here and see how our collective can use this energy. Defense mechanisms. So taking a look at our defense mechanisms, when our emotions get triggered, those triggers are messages for us on what it is that we need to continue working on. We've got here the Two of Pentacles, very this or that thinking, balancing two things, balancing spirit and material worlds, watching how we balance between our desires and our manifestations. And we've got the Ace of Pentacles. So there's new opportunities coming in here for looking at how love and meaning come together. And this could be, for a lot of you, looking at love triggers and this moth energy has a really potent symbol in indigenous cultures. The Mothmen are very much able to practice dark magic. And so I do think that for this collective, this new opportunity is coming into some sort of balanced understanding between light and dark and shadow, and seeing how discussing love and sexuality from that perspective allows them to uncover some of these triggers and understand what it is that is going into their lower chakras. Like all of the colors represented here are all of our base chakras, right? From here down. So, and that includes our sense of stability. It includes our ability to be grounded. It includes our creative and primal force. And it also includes our willpower. All right, let's pull one oracle card for this collective, and then we will wrap it up for your new moon reading. Oh, this is definitely the card. We've got healing. And so I do think that the full moon in Gemini is an opportunity for you to heal. It says the Lemurians were healers, naturally intuitive, and accustomed to navigating energetic-based realities. We all have natural healing abilities that are advanced when we deepen our energetic awareness. So, learning what sacred sexuality is, and if you aren't currently abstaining and you are engaging in sexual practices at this time, to make sure that it's not desire, like that sort of greedy, jealous, envious, gluttonous side of ourselves that is seeking out that experience in order to have a transformational experience and to come into some deeper understanding, like this new initiation, this new spark of how you're manifesting, because we can manifest negative things in our reality by sexually unclean practices. When we perceive the world beyond the more well-known senses, we start to receive information and wisdom different from that which stems from the intellect. By tapping into life force consciousness and using this abounding energy alongside focused intention, we can realize that anything is possible. All right, wonderful. Who am I reading for? I am reading for our Scorpios. All right, Scorpios. Welcome to the full moon. This is the first full moon after your new moon. So this does give you an opportunity to work on those base and root chakra challenges, and really to audit those defense mechanisms and look at, I would take a look at sacred sexuality, but I would also take a look at the 7 deadly sins and use that reading as a way to, both of those readings, as a way to essentially trigger yourself so that you've got the opportunity to move in and beyond those factors that are inhibiting your sense of foundation and ability to ground in what it is that you desire. All right, thanks, Scorpio. We'll see you over the holidays.